Well, thank you all for being here today. My name is Tiffany Taylor, and I have the pleasure of serving as a partner and co-president here at GSV. And today I am so excited because while I get to wear a number of hats across the GSV platform, one of the pieces of work that I am so grateful to be able to support is our Innovators of Color work. And today I have with us one of our 2025 Innovator of Color honorees, Matthew Mugo Fields. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It's great to be with you, and thank you for the recognition. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So your career has been defined by a deep commitment to transforming education through technology and innovation. And you've led at some of the most influential companies and founded startups that have expanded access. You've been leveraging AI-driven curricula, adaptive learning, and in-school tutoring to support students nationwide. So when you think about your journey as an education leader, what inspired you to dedicate your career to leveraging innovation to expand access for all?
Yeah, well, when you put it that way, it makes you think. For me, this is deeply personal mission work that happens to also be a career.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I got my start in education, really answering a challenge that was given to me, more like an assignment, less of a challenge, by some close mentors. So I came to the United States when I was 10 years old from Barbados, where we make Rihanna's. Before people knew who she was. Yes. And I was a low income immigrant kid from a single parent household. And unfortunately, like still happens far too often today, I entered an education system that didn't always have the highest expectations for me. And in my case, I had been a very successful student when I was in elementary school back home, came to the US and was automatically classified as, low performing, and was being tracked to vocational education. Like literally in the 5th grade, I was having conversations with counselors about what trade was I going to pick. Nothing wrong with trades, love trades,
of course.
But having a conversation with 5th grader about how they were going to use their hands and not their brains, literally these kind of conversations with having, was probably not a good idea. And that was my experience initially. And then my life changed in my 7th grade reading class when Mrs. O'Gorman saw something in me, and she literally grabbed me by the hand. I can remember it like it was yesterday, and took me across the hall to her friend, Margaret Vang, who was the guidance counselor in the school, and said, "This kid needs to go to college. Let's make this happen." And they made me a project. And I, within 2 years, was in honors classes. I was active in all kinds of organizations, all kinds of compelling opportunities, simply because those two educators spotted something in me. And that continued. After I left middle school, I went into high school. I was on college track. Mrs. Bing, as I called her, she insisted that I go to Morehouse. I didn't even know what that was. She was like, she was like, "You're going to Morehouse." I was like, "What's that?" He's like, "Don't worry, shut up, you're going."
You're going.
Yes. And even though I got into top schools, had full rides, she wanted me to go to Morehouse, and I couldn't afford it though. So I was going to take the scholarships at the other schools, and she was like, "No, we're going to make this happen." And literally her and her best friend, Gwen Bob, started a campaign and raised money in the community from people of all stripes to send me to Morehouse. And I had enough money to go for my freshman year. And luckily I was able to earn a greater scholarship once I got there. And then the night before I left to go to Morehouse, we had a dinner at Mrs. Bing's house, and she turned to me and she said, "Now go do for other kids what we just did for you." And so that set me off on my path. Now I didn't know how I was going to do it, what I was going to do. Sure. And my story was really about, anyone who knew me in college, I was annoying because I was like, "We got a mission. We can figure this out." And I was also passionate about entrepreneurship and business. And so I was trying to figure out, how do I blend these things together? So when I graduated college, I started my career as a management consultant. And then one day a week, I taught in the Atlanta public schools. And then later on, one of my close friends and I started our first education company together. And it was like teaching kids study skills, SAT prep, that kind of stuff. And then the story takes on from there.
Oh my goodness. But that was your foundation.
That was my foundation. I
love it. And what's so powerful about that story is that along the way, you had folks who were helping you, right, find your purpose and find your
100%.
voice. And they were helping you and requiring you to stand in your greatness before you could even fully see it yourself. And that's what we need for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing they did that was so important to me was they didn't say do it the way we did it.
Yes.
They said do it your way.
Yes.
Find your way.
Yes.
And so that's as I then began to get exposure to the industry of education. Yeah. And I found out, wait, you mean this stuff I'm doing as a management consultant can be applicable to businesses that work in education too?
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. So I literally, when I was, I was in an analyst program at the consulting firm, and the expectation was that you would apply to business school. Right. And so I talked to the partners in the firm and said, look, I have this crazy idea. I want to think about how do I blend education and business. I'm going to apply to master's programs in both.
Yes.
And if I get into a top school, will y'all pay for it?
Right.
And they said, yes. If you get into Harvard, we'll pay for it. And so I became the first person to simultaneously earn master's degrees at Harvard in business and ed at the same time, which was kind of crazy. But and it was there that I worked with some friends to kind of cook up a startup idea.
Yeah.
And we were able to win the business plan contest at Harvard and launch our first venture. And that became a tutoring business that we eventually, over years and different iterations, grew into a national company.
Yes.
So yeah, it was.
I love it.
Yeah, it was a, and the other thing I'll say is, so much of what we hope to do in education, and when we talk about innovation, sounds like it's fancy. It sounds, we talk a lot. There's a lot of talk about AI and all that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do is solve problems.
That's it.
We're trying to solve problems for people.
Yeah.
In our case, in the work that I do today, we're really trying to focus on solving problems for teachers.
Yes.
And students.
I love that.
That's the grounding.
Yeah.
So very much it's connected to how I came into the work in the first place.
Love it. And let's stay there for a moment, right? So we talked about your foundation, but when you think about your work at HMH, you are, like you said, driving forward just this vision to really support curriculum and professional learning and really supporting not simply the efficacy of teachers, right? But their growth, right?
Yes.
And their ability to take the skills and knowledge that they're acquiring to actually create, right, thriving classrooms, thriving schools, thriving systems.
Absolutely.
Talk to us a little bit about what your key priorities are, like in this moment, right? Given the context that we all are living through in the education landscape, what are some of your key priorities?
Yeah, we're in an interesting moment in K-12 public education in particular. We are still grappling with what some people call learning loss of the global pandemic. When schools shut down, students suffered, particularly our most vulnerable students who didn't receive essential services that they had been receiving. So that has, if you look closely at the data, you actually see that there's some stabilizing and recovery happening with some students, but our students at the lowest performing levels are actually declining even more. And that's a big challenge. We have the challenge of teacher shortage and burnout that's happening in the field right now. There's the profession is some people would say more challenging than it's ever been. We got compensation issues, all that good stuff, but just the work of teachers, their kids need more than they ever have. And they are being confronted by these just incredible challenges. And so it makes the profession not as attractive as it ought to be. It's an important, some would say the most important profession in our society, right? That's incredibly challenges. We've also got issues with funding and kind of structurally how we choose to fund schools in our society remains a challenge. But I'll also add one other thing to the list of challenges, which informs the work we do at HMH. So in response to those kind of challenges, there's been an emergence of, in many ways, a good thing, which is more and more technology is being used in classrooms. And we saw that accelerate during the pandemic. But that presents its own challenge because now we have teachers that are having to log into and use so many different solutions, and they've got, everything coming at them and go into this system and that system. You got kids doing the same thing. And so, although the promise of a lot of instructional technology is bold, the reality is often it's hard to use a lot of these things in concert with each other.
I agree. I mean, and sometimes we over-index on, it's not just hard to use, but we over-index on productivity, right?
1,000%.
And we're not really seeing the technologies emerge that are truly accelerating learning. Or if it is accelerating learning, ensuring that it's creating that depth of knowledge or really accelerating rigor in the classroom. And so those are the challenges that are educators. And I remember 20 years ago being in the classroom, like that wasn't my the mantle that I had to stand on. But I agree wholeheartedly with you. Wholeheartedly with you.
Yeah. So we've taken an already difficult job and made it harder in many ways. And so what we focus on a lot on at HMH is, and this is the center of my work, is developing solutions that are grounded in research and learning science that drive true efficacy at scale. And making sure that we have a platform that supports multiple solutions coming together in a way that is easy for educators to actually use. Our CEO, Jack Lynch, loves to say that we've, in many ways, created a situation where teachers have to be human APIs. They are the connective tissue between all these different applications, and we ought to solve that problem for them. In our case, we have a platform strategy. My team works on that. Our single platform that not only connects our solutions together so that they work in concert, but also integrates with the larger ecosystem, LMS systems, et cetera. In a way that allows teachers to be able to make the things that they want to do easier, whether it's core instruction, which is still the sort of the baseline for what's happening in the classroom, and then plugging in at the appropriate time and ways, supplemental solution, intervention solutions for our most vulnerable learners, et cetera, those kinds of things. And then also having the data from assessments flow seamlessly into those various solutions. So you have kind of one version of the truth and one set of workflows. I know it doesn't sound like a groundbreaking, revolutionary thing to use the word workflows, but it's really important.
And it's hard.
Yes.
It's so hard. And I don't think people give enough validity to that point. And they ask the question, like, why didn't this platform or why didn't this particular system or dashboard work? It wasn't what it was measuring. It wasn't what it was delivering. It was how it was expected to be leveraged in the classroom or in the system. And sometimes we just jump over that fact. So I appreciate you highlighting that.
And as you pointed out earlier, it's not just about the solutions, the curriculum, but having the wraparound professional learning services for teachers that help them learn how to navigate the challenges they face in their classroom that's specialized and customized to their particular needs, because we have the data, we know who's in the classroom, but also having them have access to, like, for example, on our platform, they can use this solution we have called Coachly, where they get access to a virtual coach on demand that it has the information about what's happening in their classroom. And there's that human to human interaction that's mediated by technology that supports them. So that's the kind of things we're focused on, creating these sort of holistic solutions. We actually have people on our team who are in schools every day working to implement these solutions because we hold ourselves accountable to getting the outcomes as well.
I love that. I love that. Well, thanks so much for talking to us, not only about the work that you're leading now, but your foundation, right? And what brought you to this moment in time. I'd like to shift gears slightly. Again, we're here this year in part to honor you and everything that you have accomplished and everything that you're setting out to accomplish in your next chapter. I'm claiming it and I'm putting it out there, right? But talk to us a little bit about, let's start here. 3 words that you would use to describe the importance of honoring and supporting innovators of color in this work.
3 words.
3 words.
We are here.
We are here. Say a little bit more.
And I would add, we always been.
Yes.
And I used the vernacular
Yes.
in that one.
Yes.
I think it's important that we are present in not just being the recipients of the users of technology and innovative solutions, but it's important to be that it's recognized that we are the ones who help create these things too.
Yes.
And that, you know, we talk a lot in software design about this thing called user empathy. So being really putting yourself in the mind state and the heart state of the user, being, you know, understanding them so you can build better solutions for them. Well, if you look at schools in America today, since the mid 2010s, you know, more than half the kids in our schools are low-income kids.
Yes.
More than half the kids in our schools are kids of color.
Yes.
We need to have people who are developing solutions that are more representative of the communities that we serve.
Yeah.
And not just because, and I'm not saying this, obviously, I think we all believe in acknowledging and having diverse teams, and that's a good thing. But I would argue it's a smart thing to do if you want to win.
Yes.
And by winning, I mean have a successful business in this sector that also has the impact that we want to desire. So that we desire. So I would say, you know, we're here.
Yeah.
We're at the forefront doing some amazing things.
Yes.
And that this award that you guys have created is an important part of recognizing that.
I appreciate that. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Again. I'm so excited I got a chance to just hear even more about your story and had a bit of time with you today. Appreciate you for all that you have done, will do, and will continue to do in the future. And thanks so much for being here.